Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolfe Pit and another episode of What Are We Eating? I absolutely love meatloaf. Whether it's baked in the oven or smoked on the grill, it's just one of those foods that I absolutely love. I like it with mashed potatoes and gravy, by itself with a nice sweet tangy glaze, but my favorite way is cold leftover meatloaf sandwiches on white bread. It has to be on white bread. But there's people that don't know how to make a meatloaf, don't have time to make a meatloaf, or simply don't want to make a meatloaf. That's when they have to make a decision. Either to go out to dinner and have a subpar meatloaf dinner, go to your mother-in-law's for the worst meatloaf dinner of your life, or picking up a frozen meatloaf dinner like the Stouffer's meatloaf dinner or the Banquet Meatloaf dinner. The Stouffer's meatloaf dinner is ketchup glazed meatloaf in a home-style gravy with russet mashed potatoes. They're freshly made and simply frozen without any high fructose corn syrup. This is the 16-ounce satisfying serving box that contains 2 meatloaves and costs $2.88. And now for the ingredients, and there sure are a lot of them, which is extremely surprising to me, since a couple videos ago I raved about Stouffer's lasagna only having 13 ingredients. And all of those ingredients were good, decent ingredients. But now I see this novel-like list of ingredients, which kind of upsets me, as I'm a big fan of Stouffer's. There's a lot of added, different protein concentrates, as well as many sources of MSG and free glutamic acid. If you're like me and you like MSG and have no reaction to it, then it's not an issue. But for some people it is. Now for the nutrition facts. The serving size is the whole container. There's 560 calories, 250 of those calories are from fat. There's 28 grams of total fat, 12 grams of saturated fat, and 0.5 grams of trans fat, 90 milligrams of cholesterol, 1,320 milligrams of sodium, 40 total carbohydrates, 4 grams of fiber, 8 grams of sugars, and 36 grams of protein. And the best buy date is right around a year. And this thing simply did not want to come out of the box. There's the 2 meatloaves, the gravy, and a good helping of mashed potatoes. But as you guys already know, I usually don't like frozen mashed potatoes. The only frozen mashed potatoes that I really liked were the Boston Markets. With this being such a big helping of mashed potatoes, I hope they're good. Now there's 2 different cooking instructions, conventional oven and microwave oven. I'm going to do it the lazy way and pop it in the microwave. I don't really see any benefit in cooking this one in the oven. I just don't see waiting 40 minutes for a frozen meal to cook. We did that back in the 70s when I was a kid. I'm not doing it again, because when I'm hungry, I want to eat.
Ain't nobody got time to wait 40 minutes to eat.
The microwave instructions say to leave the plastic on and do not puncture the plastic and heat on high for 7.5 minutes and then let it rest for 1 minute. After 8.5 minutes, our meatloaf, gravy, and mashed potatoes were done. Then I gave the mashed potatoes a quick stir, and then I tried the mashed potatoes. And you can immediately tell that they're nice and thick. They're not the typical watered down frozen mashed potatoes. And these mashed potatoes were actually pretty good. They weren't great, but they were pretty good. Not the typical watered down mashed potatoes. Then I gave them a try in the gravy, and they held up just like regular mashed potatoes. Most frozen mashed potatoes would just fall apart in the gravy. The gravy was okay, it had a decent flavor, and it wasn't overly salty. I flipped the meatloaves over to coat them in gravy and to see if the bottoms burnt, but they didn't. They cooked perfectly. And then I noticed that the meatloaves were 2 different sizes. I thought these meatloaves would be automatically stamped out by a machine and they would all be the same size. But maybe Stouffer's gives you 2 different sizes to make them look more homemade. Who knows? And the meatloaf wasn't bad, but you get that very familiar flavor, like the same flavor of the meatloaf you had in school. It's not a bad flavor, just a very distinct flavor. It's a little tougher and denser than I normally like my meatloaf. Overall, the meatloaf, gravy, and mashed potatoes were pretty decent. A little bit above average. So with that said, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. And now for the Banquet Meatloaf meal. The Banquet Meatloaf meal is gravy over meatloaf made with chicken, pork, and beef, creamy mashed potatoes, sweet corn, and cinnamon apple dessert. The mashed potatoes are made with real cream, as opposed to fake cream. And just like on the Banquet Salisbury steak dinner, they want you to know this is made in America. And that's all fine and dandy. But what really concerns me is not only where it's made, but where the ingredients came from. Made in the USA does not mean it's 100% American product. But like I said before, that's just me being a pessimist. On the back of the box, it says Banquet invites you to pull up a chair and enjoy classic, made in America, comfort food. Like you, we believe in quality and good, honest value, and trust you'll taste it in our traditional meatloaf served with gravy, a side of creamy mashed potatoes, sweet corn, and cinnamon apple dessert. This is the 11.88 ounce meatloaf meal that cost $1.27. I see one of my favorites already, textured soy protein, Yum! I also see MSG several times, as well as other sources of MSG and free glutamic acid. Now for the nutrition facts, and the serving size is the whole meal. There's 330 calories, 100 of those calories are from fat. There's 11 grams of total fat, 3.5 grams of saturated fat, 0 trans fat, 50 milligrams of cholesterol, 1,350 milligrams of sodium, 450 milligrams of potassium, 43 total carbohydrates, 5 grams of fiber, 11 grams of sugars, and 13 grams of protein. The best by date on this one is even longer, at almost a year and a half. Let's get this out of the box and get it heated up. Now again, this one has 2 sets of cooking directions. But I'm not going to spend $3 worth of electricity to heat up a $1.27 meal. Oh hell, for all I know, the microwave uses more electricity than the oven. I don't know. It says to remove film from dessert and then microwave on high for 6 to 7 minutes. And then let stand 2 minutes. After 8.5 minutes, our $1.27 meatloaf and mashed potato meal is ready. I gave the corn a good mix and gave it a try. And like you've heard me say in previous videos, the corn in frozen dinners is usually pretty good. But this corn tastes like feed corn. It was mushy and it wasn't sweet at all. It just looks old. And once I started mixing the mashed potatoes, I could immediately tell these are typical frozen dinner mashed potatoes. Look at how watery they were. They don't even look like mashed potatoes. You can see them dripping off the fork. They had no texture and no flavor. About as bland as they could get. And then I tried some with the gravy, and as you could tell, they just disintegrated. They wouldn't hold up to the gravy. The gravy had a little bit of flavor, not very much. And just like on the banquet meal, this meatloaf did cook evenly. No overcooking or burning whatsoever. And as I expected, the meatloaf had very little flavor and it was spongy, obviously due to the textured soy protein. And like I said, not really much flavor, but it wasn't overly salty either. The best thing about this meal was the apples. Other than that, it tasted just like you would think a $1.27 meal would taste, like crap. The only thing I liked about this meal was the apples. And if it weren't for them, I wouldn't even give it a rating. But since the apples are in it, I'll give it a 2 out of 10. The Stouffer's meatloaf meal is definitely 100% better. Thank you all very much for watching. If you want to choose a meatloaf dinner, choose the Stouffer's over the Banquet. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.